All right, welcome to another show of Wealth Builders. My name's Anthony Cangemi, and we really thank you so much for joining us this morning. I have our fabulous co-host, Mr. Tony Shore, with us as we do every Sunday morning.
Yep.
Tony, we're so appreciative of you on this show and helping make the show. And really, we owe so much to you as it relates to the success of our show. So thank you so much for being here, Tony.
Oh, that's kind of you to say, but this is your show, Anthony, and you bring the wisdom. But I like to have fun each show, talking to our listeners out there. And I know you and I both enjoy hearing from the listeners. We love talking to folks out there and viewers on the YouTube channel. So that's good. And you've got a lot going on this summer. You're doing a lot of big campaigns. You've got a lot of educational material and events for our listeners and viewers out there. And today we're going to be talking about some of that. We're headed into the nice time of year, and I think you've got a great plan for our listeners today, the 2026 Retirement and Savings Guide. And that's why today I'm going to ask you, Anthony, about how people out there can plan for their retirement and savings success, how to plan for retirement and savings success. It's one thing, I've got a plan, I've got a 401k. No, you want to plan for long-term success and have an overall written plan that encompasses everything. We'll talk about what that entails, and we'll talk about how our listeners can do that and what the steps are that they should be taking, depending on where they're at in the journey, right? So first, though, I have to ask, how are you? How are the boys doing? Have you been busy there at the office? Have you been spending time with the family?
Yes, all of the above. They're just off of Easter break. And so the two younger ones are back in school. Everybody's doing good. They really are. We're blessed with good health. And, all the kids are doing really well. I tell you, Tony, the four boys, and they're all so different. My goodness, how different they are. Same parents, same, upbringing, and they're just all so different. So it just really reminds me of we're all individuals, and we all have our likes and dislikes and personalities and everything. And I see that it's so evident with my four boys, right? I mean, I could say, how can Anthony, my oldest, be so different than Chris, and Chris so different than Daniel, and Sam is there. They're just all so different. And it really kind of reminds me of our own clients in that, even though retirement planning or the pillars of a retirement plan are very, let's say, interchangeable in terms of people, but specifically everybody's situation's a little different and everybody's goals are different. When I think about the pillars of a retirement plan, estate planning, legacy planning, healthcare, investments, income planning, taxes, of course, those foundational pieces are universal, but
Yeah.
within each one of those pieces, it can become so unique to just that family and just that individual situation. So I would just, at the end of it, I would just encourage, our listeners to recognize that, yes, the principles, the pillars of a financial plan or retirement plan are, yes, the same, interchangeable. The specifics of each plan and what's important to you is what's really needs to be addressed. And that's why that customization, Tony, and really personalized retirement plans, in our view, are just so important.
Yeah. Yeah, and the customization is a big part of this, and I think that's a big part of it, because if you look at that guide that you have, and our listeners will tell you later in the show how you can get your own copy. There's no charge for that, no obligation. But there are so many aspects to a plan, and there are so many different types of accounts. You have your traditional IRA, your Roth, your SEP, simple, solo, profit sharing, thrift savings, or TSP for government workers out there, the 403b, defined benefits, and then you have health savings accounts. So the guide tells you what each one of those does, but beyond that, you have to have the plan. And how are you going to save is a big part of this. You've talked about compounding interest before, how a small contribution, boom, it can blow up because of compounding interest. But then you have to look at tax aspects. So we need to look at how we align our savings with our goals, and everybody's goals are different, and that's what you got to there. So really, when you talk to people, that's why they need to come in and work with someone like yourself, because they get advice from all over. You might read an article. I saw an article the other day, I think it was USA Today, that said why you need $1.2 million to retire. Well, I know people who've happily retired on 500,000. I know people who needed $5 million to maintain their lifestyle retirement. So, there isn't a cookie cutter approach or a magic number. You have your own numbers and your own goals. So, Anthony, one of the first things you do when you meet with people, and one of the first things people need to do, is, what are my goals? What is my timeline, right? Or time horizon?
Absolutely, Tony. Time horizon. How far out are we? Are you a year away from retirement? Are you 5 years away? Are you 10 years away? All that matters. Time horizon matters.
Yeah.
Some people come, especially from our radio show as well, that are already retired. So they're actually in retirement. So where you're at in the stage of retirement certainly does matter a lot. It matters based on, you mentioned all of these various retirement accounts, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, 401ks, solo 401ks, Roth 401ks. So tax implications, what's the tax strategy while we're accumulating assets versus the tax strategy when we're distributing those assets, and what the time horizon is between the accumulation phase and the distribution phase. Yes, it matters. And that's why, everybody's situation is going to be different. Unless you're the same age and make the exact same amount of money and have the exact same family dynamics, and everybody's going to retire at the exact same time, well, then maybe it would be a cookie cutter approach. But outside of that, it really needs to be personalized and customized retirement planning so you can get the most bang for your buck, right?
Right.
As it relates to taxes and distributions and overall success in retirement.
Yeah. Well, for sure. And that's what we're talking about. And that's the importance of planning right there. And you've talked a lot about the pillars of a plan, which go into retirement savings. But this guide will show there are so many different options, and they have so many different rules and regulations, Anthony. When somebody comes to you, you have to find out what they have. And they might have a TSP, or they might have a 403b. They might have a 401k. Maybe they have a Roth. But maybe what they have, it isn't going to carry them through. A lot of people think, well, I've got my 401k. That's what I'll have in retirement for income. But how do you turn a 401k into income? And you probably shouldn't leave it all in a 401k or all in a traditional IRA, right? You should do other things with it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. So people will have a 401k, which when your company offers a 401k, and especially if there's some type of a match to the 401k, we are the very first ones to say, take advantage of that. Take advantage of the match for sure. And depending on whether you should be in a traditional 401k or a Roth 401k is going to determine your tax strategy, right? Does it make more sense to take the tax deduction now, or within the Roth strategy, you don't get the tax deduction now, but then of course it's going to be tax-free income later. So this whole time horizon and tax implications between the accumulation phase and the distribution phase really can make a world of difference if you dial that in and get it right. And that's really what our objective is, Tony, is to really take a good inventory of the accounts that are there, how these accounts work, what the matches are, what the individual client's tax implications are. Are they married filing joint? Does their spouse work? What type of retirement plans does the spouse have? And how it all works together. Tony, I really like the analogy of spokes on a wheel. Each one of your pieces, if you will, of your retirement plan, whether it be your Social Security strategy, whether it be your retirement plan, your spouse's plan, your outside investments, outside of a retirement plan, how it all, a pension, defined benefit plans that you may have available, any types of annuities and how the annuities function. All of these, let's say, are just individual spokes on a wheel, on the retirement wheel. And the idea is to have all of these spokes, these retirement accounts and strategy, to work together, to support each other. And what you find, Tony, when you yourself, we talk a lot about Social Security planning. We have I would say a state of the art Social Security maximization report.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so
helpful.
good. What is that? It's just a foundational report that allows us to draw in the Social Security strategies that are available, right? Depending on the client and how much they put in and if they're married, and what is the Social Security strategy to maximize your Social Security planning, right? And it uses life expectancy as a benchmark. But the point is, even in that Social Security strategy report, which, as you know, Tony, it gives you 4 options. What if you start now? What if you start it early? What if you start at full retirement? What if you wait till 70? But then it gives you this optimization strategy. And we look at many Social Security reports where the optimized strategy versus the worst strategy based on life expectancy, right? Apples to apples comparison can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Difference between the optimized strategy and the worst strategy. Just looking at life expectancy, comparing the same, everybody lives and dies at the same time, hundreds of thousands of dollars different. So that's just an example of why each spoke on the wheel, and Social Security being one of those spokes, we want to maximize each area of the retirement plan so we can really utilize, if you will, all of the pieces at their to your advantage.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you start with the knowns. You start with, okay, what are your goals? What is your personal time frame? And then you look at, okay, let's look at what you have. Let's start with Social Security. You can figure out what your Social Security is going to be. I mean, you should you'll be able to get pretty close. If even if you're 5 years out, you can figure out what your Social Security is going to be. If you're within 10 years of retiring or filing, you can figure out, okay, if I file here, and that report's going to help. And Anthony, you're going to help people find their sweet spot. Just because your neighbor or your brother-in-law or your best buddy at work filed at 62, don't listen to them. You figure out, work with a professional, have the report run. And for our listeners and viewers, again, no charge on the report. You guys will do that for people. It's part of the planning process. I love that. And they can get this retirement and savings guide. And so before we go on, I want to let listeners know, to get the guide, all they have to do is call the office and let them know, hey, I want that retirement savings guide. You can get that emailed to you. But the way to get all the information and the reports run and a plan get that no charge, no obligation consultation, is to call and set up that consultation and mention you heard about it on the radio show, mention you heard about it on Wealth Builders, whether it was on a podcast platform, on the radio, or on YouTube. Mention that. And what's that number they can call, Anthony?
Yeah, absolutely. So just call 504-828-2171. That's our local office number here in Metairie, 504-828-2171, and just ask for the retirement planning guide that Tony and I are speaking about. It's really, a wealth of information to be able to utilize practical retirement plans, exactly what the contribution limits are, and what it all means to your overall retirement. It's a really an incredible report, and we want to provide it to our listeners. Just call 504-828-2171, and we'll make sure we get a copy right to you.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Now, we're talking about how to align your retirement with your personal goals. You want to start with Social Security, and people's question to you, Anthony, the biggest thing they ask you is, how much do I need? How much am I going to need? Do I have enough to last throughout retirement? And, as our buddy always used to say, you don't want your bank account to hit zero before your blood pressure hits zero, right? Yeah, you want to have some money. You want to make it through retirement. And the way to do that, no matter how much or how little you have to have a plan in place. And you want to have your money properly allocated, and just leaving it in a 401k or a traditional is not necessarily the end all be all, because there's different buckets. And you've talked about that. You don't want all your eggs in one basket. And now people have opportunities at employers or through IRAs to do a Roth, right? And you've helped a lot of people do Roth conversions. Why is that? Why is that a big part of this? Why don't I just leave it in a 401k? Why do I convert it over?
Right. So, it's really about the tax implications, right?
Sure.
So when you were putting into your 401k or your traditional IRA, you were getting the tax break when you were putting the money in, right? But it grows tax deferred, and then when the money comes out, Uncle Sam's looking for his part. So we have to pay taxes on the money, right? We have to pay taxes on the money we put in, and we have to pay taxes on the gains on your traditional IRA and your 401k, because you got the tax break when you put it in, but now you got to pay Uncle Sam when you pull it out.
Right.
So when we're building this retirement distribution strategy, and you're utilizing income from Social Security and from investments, you're looking at the tax brackets, and you're looking and saying, hey, what tax bracket am I in, and how much room do I have in that particular tax bracket? Because we know all this retirement money's got to be taxed. The question is, at what rate? So just like you wanted tax benefits when you put the money in, you're looking for tax benefits now to take the money out. So the distribution strategy is a strategic way to pull money out in the most tax favorable way. The reason why people do Roth conversions in retirement is because they know this retirement money has got to be taxed at some rate. And we know tax rates are not going to go down any further. They're already at a historic low, right? We also know that when this money passes on to our heirs, they're going to have to pay taxes at their tax rate. So taking those Roth conversions and peeling that money off strategically over time, getting Uncle Sam out of the way for his tax bite, and then putting it into the Roth and letting all that money grow tax-free now for your benefit and for your heirs. So really, Tony, again, like we said in the beginning, there's really two phases to this financial life. We have the accumulation phase where we're putting money in, right? We're working and we're saving, and we're working and we're saving. And then we get into the distribution phase where we're not presumably working and saving anymore. We're not putting money in, we're taking money out. So I even saw an analogy one time. Somebody, it was a CE course I was taking, and the fellow that was instructing the course, drew a picture of Mount Everest, and he said, "Hey, the accumulation phase, we're climbing the mountain, we're getting up to the top of the mountain. That's the accumulation phase. But then coming down the mountain, the distribution phase is also very important. It's as important as the accumulation phase. So there's two aspects to this." And so just thinking, hey, I've got to put money in and I'm going to save and I need to have $1 million to retire. That's the one frame of reference. Once you're retired, now you got to figure out how to take the money out in the most tax efficient way. And so, Tony, at the end of it, I mean, we want to do a great Social Security strategy. We want all the spokes on the wheel to be as efficient as they can be. The Social Security strategy, the investment strategy, the tax strategy, the income strategy has to be efficient. And it's those little piece here and piece there and clean this area up. And when you pull it all together and you really look at an overall plan, an income plan, a tax strategy, and an estate plan, how things are going to pass on.
Oh, yeah.
You're easily talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of a difference between a poorly planned retirement and one that really, dials all aspects in. And again, that's what we do. That's our wheelhouse here as retirement planners. We want to capitalize on the things that are available for our clients so we can make the retirement all it can be.
Yeah. Make your retirement all it can be. It's not just a military recruiting poster from the 80s, be all you can be. It's what you need. Your finances can be all they can be, and your retirement. And the funny thing is about this, retirement planning and savings guide, you look over all these accounts, and the majority of retirement accounts, especially up until recently, they're all tax deferred, and people get excited because it reduces their taxable income right now for this year. But you're in your working years and taxes are historically low right now. You'd be financially better off if you could swing it, pay the taxes on the money now and get it into a tax-free bucket, because all that growth, that compounding interest, do you want to pay taxes on the smaller amount now or the larger amount when you're in retirement? I don't think, Anthony, people don't realize that your traditional IRA, 401k, traditional retirement accounts, those are joint accounts with Uncle Sam. So many people think, I've got $500,000 in my 401k. No, you don't. You've got about 30% less than that. Well, what do you mean? Yeah. If you wanted to take that money out, even in retirement, when you take that money out, 30% of it's gone. It has to go to Uncle Sam.
Right.
It's a joint account. So, I know you have a lot of strategies depending on people's situation to get some of that money into. You want growth, but you also want a tax-free bucket. That's so important, isn't it?
Absolutely, Tony. Ed Slott, who is probably like the advisor's advisor as it relates to taxes and Roths, wrote a book. It was a New York Times bestseller. It was many years ago. And the name of the book was The Tax Time Bomb, by Ed Slott. And it was a New York Times bestseller for many years. And in his book, The Tax Time Bomb, it made me think about it with your analogy there. He had an analogy of a farmer, and he was talking about, the farmer and planting seed and having harvest. And he said, and he was making this analogy with Roth IRAs. He said, if you were a farmer and you were paying taxes, right, like farmers would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the harvest?
Right.
So the seed, you're going to be a lot less tax implication on the seed, right? But then when all the harvest and all the crops grow and everything else, is going to be a lot more money, right? And we're going to have a lot more taxes to pay. Well, that's the difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. With a traditional IRA, you don't pay taxes on the seed, but then all the growth is taxable. The seed money was taxable and the growth is taxable. With the Roth, you don't get the tax break. So you don't get the tax break on the seed, but then the harvest, the growth is all tax free. So at the, really, I know that, people scratch their head and say, well, what's better for me? Or how should I set this up? And really the tools are there. The tools are there. You have the retirement planning tools. They're all available. Like you say, we have this report that we want to send that lists every retirement tool in the book that's available to you. We want to send that to you. And so you can see what's out there, so you can see what's available. And then it's a matter of utilizing the appropriate tool for the job. If we want to, hang a picture, we're going to need a hammer. We don't need a screwdriver. And so we just need to use the appropriate tool for the job that's being accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. The right tool for the job. My dad always said, Anthony, he always told me, he goes, son, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And that's not great. You go to some insurance only person and, hey, what can I do for retirement? They have one solution, an insurance product, an insurance product, right? Or you go to somebody who's just a stockbroker, or into stocks or into investing. They have one answer. All they have is a hammer, and the answer is that hammer, and that hammer is investments. And there's nothing wrong with, in the right circumstance, an annuity might be the perfect option for you. In another circumstance, you need growth, so investments are good. But you don't want all your eggs in one basket.
No.
And you want to work with a trusted financial professional who's a fiduciary, who's going to look out for your best interests and say, no, this product is way wrong for you. Somebody should not have sold you this or got you into this. Let's, change that. Or maybe you have everything in just a few stocks. It's like, you got to have diversity. You got to have balance. And that's where you come in. That's where the guide comes in to help you understand what you have. That's what the 2026 Retirement and Savings Guide does. And the Social Security Maximization Report helps you get a good, strong, solid start. So, in order to get all that in place, before we go today, Anthony, let our listeners know, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So a couple of ways. One, go to our website, crescentcityretirement.com. All of these past shows, this show is all archived on the site. You can download the guide there. You can request the guide there, and then we will send it directly to you. If you just simply go to crescentcityretirement.com, or kind of the old-fashioned way, pick up the phone, which, I prefer, is our phone number, 504-828-2171. Just give us a call. And if you have any questions, any retirement-related questions that you just want answered, and you say, I want to know more about Social Security or Medicare or estate planning or our income plan or some tax questions, any question at all, pick up the phone and call us, 504-828-2171. We're here to help, and we're happy to take your call. So we appreciate you listening today. We really we appreciate our radio community, and we look forward to seeing you again next Sunday at 11.
All right, sounds great, Anthony. Listeners, that does it for today's episode of Wealth Builders with our host, Anthony Cangemi.